Welcome back. I'm delighted to be to introduce our social work manager, Kathleen Taylor. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I think you and I have had previous conversations on Channel 6.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a few, like practically every week. Kathleen, one of the things that you and I talked a little bit about that we will be doing, sponsored by Social Work, is a rerun of the Stephen Mag program. And do you want to talk a bit about that?
Well, we had the forum back. Has it been like 2 weeks?
About 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Anyway.
But anyhow, very popular. Lots and lots of people came.
Too many.
More people wanted to come that couldn't come. So that's the reason that we're going to be repeating it in a setting where people will have a chance to kind of digest out loud what they saw in the video and ask different questions, sort of not that we're going to have the answers that Steve would have, but just be able to kind of continue that conversation with that group of people. It was, I think, so educational in terms of sort of what you and Eric were talking about in terms of kind of trying to prognosticate the future of CCRCs, what they're going to look like, what the residents are, the new residents are going to be looking for. And Steve has all of the research and work that Leading Age has done to kind of back up his guess about what the next steps are going to be for CCRCs. So I'm froggy. So I think it'll be definitely worthwhile for people that didn't get a chance to see it to come, and I think it just has a lot of information. I think I learned a lot.
Oh, I think we all did. It was kind of amazing. Steve is a director at Leading Age, and I think maybe we should just fill people in a little bit on what Leading Age is.
Oh yeah, well it's a I don't even know what the right term is, but it's sort of a association of, what is it, 6,000 different
6,000
not-for-profit organizations that work with aging. And I think that their goals are advocacy, education, and research. I think they do work with legislation regarding the aging. I thought that some of the research that they've done has been really interesting. Like, he spoke about I just always say this because it's so fascinating to me, the idea of changing the term CCRC, continuing care retirement communities, to life plan communities, because CCRCs, when they did tests with potential residents in their 60s, it didn't go well. They didn't respond well to the CCRC name, but they liked the life plan.
It was the continuing care part and the retirement part that did not resonate with.
Yeah, and then I thought, what you and Eric were talking about again with, like, he's seeing people coming in now that aren't retiring, that are continuing to work, and how that's going to impact the community, and how we're going to have to rethink
some of the
meal
services,
accessibility and all of that was fascinating, because that's another thing that Steve said was that the baby boomers are not thinking retirement. They're thinking, I'm going to change what I do, but I'm probably going to continue to work maybe forever, So we're definitely seeing those changes. Eric is saying he's seeing those changes already.
I really hadn't thought about that. Yes, it's going to have a major impact on what Green Spring is going to look like 10 or 20 years from now.
Yeah, so
or even 5 years from now.
So definitely brings up a lot of fascinating ideas, and then, that probably brings out more questions, but that's a good thing.
Absolutely. We're holding, I think there's a screen for our forum. Here it is. This will be on Thursday, March 2nd, and it's in the Akatink room at 1 o'clock. We're assuming this time that we're going to have plenty of space.
I hope so.
We didn't last time. We actually had to be turning folks away from this. And Kathleen, as you're saying, we'll also hope to have some good discussion afterward, because it certainly does raise a lot. He raised a lot of points.
Yeah, yeah. And he also touched on what we've been talking about in terms of what it means to be a community, that community aspect of CCRC/life plan communities is really important. You know, people living together, and how that social aspect is so important to your quality of life and overall well-being. So I think that's another thing that we want to sort of branch off on at some point.
Yes, and I think the whole idea of how generations are getting along together in a community like this.
Right.
That there are, I believe the term you use is tensions.
Tensions, yeah. I actually borrowed that from Steve too. But it's sort of, I mean, it's a nice way of putting it, because, you know, of course, when people live together in our community in sort of close proximity, there are going to be some tensions that we have to work out. And then when you have different ages, you know, that's certainly going to add to it. So how we manage that as a community.
I think one of the things that most of us really hadn't thought much about is the fact that we have really 3 generations here,
Yeah.
and that all 3 of them have particular characteristics. Now, clearly not every person in a particular generation is going to exhibit all of those, but that generally speaking, there are 3 quite different generations.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had technology is the one that we kind of talk about
Right.
the most, because, you know, the people that are coming in now are like totally tech savvy, and they want all of the all of the connectivity that they can possibly have, and they want their information now. They don't want it in a cubby or on a bulletin board. And then there are residents that are not hooked up at all, and they want their
And
paper.
never want to be.
Right, right. So, you know, yeah, definitely differences, and I think that as a community, we're just trying to figure that out. You know, how to provide services in the way that people need them when we have lots of diversity in what people's expectations are. So that makes it hard sometimes.
Well, and as we have talked about in previous programs, diversity also in terms of disabilities, folks coming in with disabilities in some cases, and certainly as we age in place, disabilities increasing.
Right.
So that changes the profile,
Right, right.
as well.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I think that video, or the video that people will be seeing, the presentation that Steve did, he touched on so many of these things. He touched on that tension, and he talked about tolerance, you know, how communities develop tolerance for the diversity of the people that are living together. You know, that's key. So that's a good question. How do we develop tolerance for each other's differences to make ourselves a nice community?
Is really the baseline for tolerance understanding what the differences are, do you think?
Yeah.
Knowledge?
I think knowledge, definitely kind of owning discomfort sometimes, but then, you know, a willingness to learn. I think just getting to know people, you know, not being put
Yes.
off by the initial sense that you're different than me and we're not going to get along or whatever, but being able to get past that. I think that one of our residents said it really well, that, you know, once they got to know someone, you know, the fact that they were, you know, in a wheelchair didn't really make any difference to them. They forgot about that. But I think, you know, at some point when you don't know that person, that can become a barrier to you going any farther.
You see the wheelchair, not the person.
And it becomes it sort of stops you. You know, it makes you. I guess that's the sort of stereotypical reaction that people have. That, you know, they stereotype that person because they're, you know, using an assistive device as being a certain way, and they don't ever get to know that person. So that's what we're talking about too, I think. It's complicated, right?
Oh gosh, I think so. And as you're saying, the more we talk about this, the more we can talk about this, I think probably the better all of us are going to be at understanding the situation and dealing with it.
Yeah, I think, open dialogue, letting people just air out, their feelings, and then, hopefully work to an understanding or some kind of a consensus. Consensus doesn't mean that everybody agrees. It just means that, people sort of, develop a common ground. That
becomes the community norm, as it were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think we found this both at Stephen Magg's original presentation 3 weeks ago, and we'll hope to see it again when we do the video rerun. That there's just beginning to be good conversation about this whole topic.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, very, very fun.
Kathleen, I see we're down to the last couple of minutes. Did you have anything else from social work that you would like to tell folks?
Well, we're still looking for a social worker for our rehab unit. So we have a good candidate now that I think we're getting close. And next month is social work month. So we're figuring out how we're going to celebrate, how the different social workers will celebrate that with their neighborhoods out in the community. So
how have you celebrated that in the past?
Usually the social workers will do a sort of a tea, social work tea.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, and they'll have some food, just have kind of an open house kind of environment where people can drop by and, say hi, meet their social worker if they haven't already.
Those have been very successful, as I recall, in the past. I mean, a pretty good crowd of folk.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's a really nice informal time to just get together, and because they're based out of the different community buildings, you're kind of seeing the people that you see in the hallways and stuff. So it's a nice social occasion.
Yes. And I suspect in some cases, so folks will not have met their social worker.
That's right. So it gives them an opportunity to stop in. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's nice. So that's on the agenda.
Yes, that's the big thing for March.
I see.
We're going to party all month for social work month.
That's just what I was going to ask you. If you're
Probably not, but
any such luck.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're hoping fairly quickly to be filling that position at Garden Ridge.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Well, I think anything else you would like to report at this point?
I don't think so.
I think at this point then we'll stop and have the announcements.